So, without further ado, we're going to bring on Arielle Grant, and she is. We've had some other authors from Strive Publishing come on the show, and Arielle is another one of the authors from the great city of Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Yes, that's right. Hey, Rhonda, how you doing?
Now I'm Gwen. Rhonda's not
Oh,
on. Yeah, Rhonda's not on yet, but she will
okay.
be later.
Well, wonderful. I look forward to meeting her. It's great to meet you.
Well, same here. And I love your head wrap. That was different from
Thank you.
you had your twist out on your picture. So,
Yeah, just working all the styles.
oh, I know. My daughter is a natural hair advocate, and she's really schooled me on just all the stuff that she does. She has all the head wraps, and she did a big chop. So
Yes,
she started off doing the twist outs, and then she got tired of. She said it took her the whole weekend to do her hair because her hair was long, so she just cut it all off. It's really cute on her. Some people can rock that short style.
absolutely. We can
So
make anything look good.
yeah, so tell us about your book. Is called The Picture Box,
Yes.
and it's for children. And oh, that's your book there.
Yes, here it is.
Okay, yeah, but pull it closer to the screen so we can see it. Okay. So, what was your inspiration for writing this? Is this your first? Is this your first book? Is this
Yes.
your first? Oh, it's your first book. Period. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Yes, I am the author and illustrator of The Picture Box. It is my first children's book. I'm a writer and I do publish online other essays, but this was my first like published, something I could feel. So it
Okay.
feels like a major accomplishment.
I do know how that is, and I will say I just released my 13th book today, and
Congratulations.
thank you. It never gets old.
Yes, I hear
It
that.
putting the book in your hand after you been toiling and editing and getting other people to edit it and all that is it never gets old. Putting your hands on the book itself after you're done never gets old. So
Absolutely.
congratulations on the accomplishment. Now I do want to ask you about being an illustrator and artist and writer and all of those. Do
Yes, of
you
course.
do illustrations for other people?
So I actually got connected with Strive Publishing, as you mentioned, which is a Black-owned publishing company here in the Twin Cities. And it was just by happenstance. I stumbled across their work. They were having their first gala celebrating the launch of their publication. And I was like, this is so beautiful. I grew up not seeing enough of myself reflected in children's books. And so I said, why don't I volunteer my time and energy and contribute to this publishing organization? And so I began ready to get connected with an author. I began as an illustrator, ready to get connected with an author to contribute to their story in that way. And it just was a little slow going. I met with a couple of authors, but we didn't find a match right away. And then my publisher asked me to create a comic strip because we were doing a collaborative effort that was supposed to show off all the authors and illustrators that were part of the publishing organization. And I delivered the comic strip, and she said, "This is so beautiful. We're not going to do the collaboration, but I'd like you to make this into a story." And so that was the challenge I was faced with. So I started off really focusing on art. That's kind of just a love language of mine, and then was really empowered by Strive Publishing to take that from just the visual storytelling to adding the words as well.
Okay, well, this you never know. A lot of times people do get involved in things and they're as volunteers and they end up being blessed in so many other ways
That's right.
by volunteering. Because if you're volunteering, especially if you're volunteering in something that you actually want to do, something that's a passion of yours, then you can really and you're working with a smaller company where you can really learn from the ground how things happen. You can really learn some things.
Absolutely. It's been such an incredible learning curve. I never knew all that it took to creating a children's book, and it is a lot of work, especially as an illustrator. Of course, as an author, creating the words that tell the story in a beautiful and clear way is very meaningful. Something I was a little bit more familiar with, but when it came to learning the illustration component, that was a huge learning curve for me.
Right. Well, I have, out of my 13 books, 5 of them are children's books. So my new book is a children's book. But the children's book, as opposed to books that you write for adults or teens, like my other books are for adults, with the children's book, writing the words is fast
Yep.
because there's not that many words for
Right.
a children's book. It's the illustrations that take months.
Yes.
And because I think my book was written in January, the words, or maybe February, and I had started with the illustrations in January, and it took months. It
Yes.
took, because they have to be right, and uh they, especially if your characters are African American or in the diaspora,
Mm-hmm.
the features have to be right, the skin tones have to be right. You can't,
Yep.
you just can't.
The hair, like if you do
The
detailed hair, that
hair
takes
has to be
time.
right. How could I forget
Yes.
about the hair?
I'm proud. So you can see little teeny curls on our girl
Oh,
Ardelia.
she has a
And
twist
those,
out.
yes, those curls took time. Yes.
Yeah, the hair has to be right,
That's
and
right.
all of it, but you can't just have washed out Caucasian people, in your book. It has to be
Right.
black people with black features. So
Yeah.
that's beautiful work. That's
Thank
beautiful.
you very much. Thank you.
Now, what is your book about? The picture box.
Yeah, so the picture box, I think the easiest way to tell you what it's about is really to tell you how I was inspired to tell the story. I was actually in a season of unemployment for the first time in my career. And I found myself asking a lot of questions about who am I outside of the work that I do? Who am I when I'm not introducing myself based on my profession? And so I wrote this story of this little girl. Her name's Ardelia, and she is moving to, the scene starts out, she's driving away from her old home, from her family, that her grandparents who she knows and loves, into a brand new city. And she's challenged with her new teacher with a project of dreaming of who she might be when she grows up, what profession she might have when she grows up. And it kind of takes her into a tailspin. She's feeling really uncertain about who she is, where she is, who she can be in this new place. And she walks around the city with her mom, and she sees Black women across the city doing different things. She sees Black women painting murals, and she sees Black women carrying babies, and she sees Black women on the phone with clipboards in their hands. And she has a conversation with her mom about all these different women. And so it's an opportunity for us to, highlight representation. She begins to dream of herself in these roles. But she has this moment with her parents where she's just like, I still don't know who I should be when I grow up. And her parents tell her, no matter what you do or where you go or who is around you, you'll always be our little girl. You'll always be Ardelia. And so it's a story about identity. It's a story about representation. It's a story about um, Black womanhood in so many ways and girlhood.
That's an important topic today. I think it's always been important, but it seems like today it's even more important because um, there's so many influences. There's so many outside influences. There are many
Yeah.
more now than there were when I was a girl growing up. Because basically, um, and I'm looking down because I want to make sure that I am checking the comments for the
Oh,
show,
good.
because Rhonda normally does that. We normally kind of switch off, but she's really good at it, and so so I want to make sure that if we have any, because usually we have comments and questions, I just want to make sure that I'm on that, and I do it on my phone. She has 2 computers that she works with, and so I'm not there yet. So anyway, in today's environment, one of the things that um it's just there's so many outside influences.
Absolutely.
I mean, most of my influences were people that I could see and touch and talk to. Um, television wasn't, we didn't watch a lot of television, and it was it it had a role of entertainment, but we never really thought about it for more of being more than that. But social media has really just changed um, a lot of things. So that people are looking at other people and emulating them or wishing they could be them when you can't be someone else.
Absolutely.
You have to be
Absolutely.
the best you that you can be. And so I think it's really important that you're emphasizing that in your book. Hi, Rhonda.
Hi, Wanda. How you doing?
I'm
I'm on.
great.
I'm on with Arielle Grant, and she's talking about her book, The Picture Box. It's a
Hi, Ariel.
children's book.
How you doing?
Oh, I'm great now that I'm finally back in my hotel room.
I see the hotel room in the background.
Yeah,
To,
this is about the best I'm gonna do with lighting, facing
oh,
the window.
I understand. How long have you been in San Diego?
I just got here last night, and I will be
Oh.
here until the 16th.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, um, I'm glad you could join us.
Glad to be here.
So Ariel's talking about her book, and she's talking about it's about children who dream, a little girl that dreams,
Oh,
and about what she wants to be for the future. And she's with Strive Publishing, which we've had
yes.
um, two other guests from Strive. We had Mary Terrace, who
Yes.
is the founder of
Founder. Yep.
Strive.
Hmm.
That's
And then we had last week we had Kevin Jenkins, I think it was his name.
Yeah,
Uh,
he had a great interview too.
he did. He had the book about kidney disease.
right.
Hmm.
So now tell us about your organization. I believe is it a nonprofit? Your render free organization.
So Render Free is a for-profit.
Oh, it's
It
for
is
profit. Okay.
yes. The it's a workspace and a wellness club for self-identified Black and Brown women. And we know, I'm sure y'all know, especially the name of this interviewing series, that right now Black Lives Matter is like a trending term, right? It is honestly trendy to talk about why Black Lives Matter right now, which is great. Like, let's optimize this opportunity. But we anticipate in the future, just as it has been in the past, Black folks won't always have the center stage in the way that we do in some ways right now. And so we've decided to go for profit and attempt to make this an organization that's sustained for us and by us. So we are a physical space as well as virtual offerings that center our healing and support our well being as self identified Black and Brown women.
Well, I find it interesting that you decided to go the for-profit route. A number of people have been creating nonprofits. Why did you decide to do this in a for-profit way instead of nonprofit?
I simply wanted it to be something that, again, like even beyond the trendiness of this era, when folks are no longer looking at us but we still know how important our wellness is, that we can contribute in a way that uplifts and sustains this organization. Also a point of dignity, right? We try to hit that sweet spot in making our organization accessible but also sustainable. So
Yes.
while the regional average for a membership like ours in this area in the Twin Cities is about $180 a month, ours is offered for $40 a month. So trying to make sure that it's accessible, but also sustainable. Like, that's a number that allows us to pay the bills, which of course is the thing that keeps us going and growing as well.
Mm.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm a big proponent for profit. I am an entrepreneur from probably birth, and I wanted to be one since I was 15. That was all. That's what I wanted. So, I believe in for profit, and I just thought it might be nonprofit, but um, the thing about nonprofits that people sometimes don't realize, one, you have to have a board
Mm-hmm.
because it's a corporation.
Right.
Um, two, you have your financials are public.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever you're doing, anybody can go and look and see what you're up to, or what you've done,
Right.
or who you paid, or who's on your payroll. When you're for profit, it's not public. So
That's right.
it's nobody's business. That's
And
so
you know,
fun.
I think even more specifically, it's our business. So I have 50
Right.
founding members right now. We, a couple weeks ago, just had our first founding member forum, which was an opportunity for myself and my team to pull back the curtain and share with our members our dreams for the future and what we've accomplished, and really invite them to co-create with us. But we could do that as a closed community because we're a for-profit organization.
Mm-hmm.
But
Right.
it's funny that you mentioned that entrepreneurship was something you knew from the beginning. Both the picture box and being an author and illustrator, as well as render free, was not something I thought I would find myself doing. It was really, I think, just the sovereignty of God and stumbling into circumstances that honestly led to hardship, but brought hope, and took me to a place where I said, let me build what I'm dreaming and what I need that I don't see. And so I emerged from, that season of life with some beautiful things to show for it.
Well, as a longtime entrepreneur, I went to the school of hard knocks a whole bunch of times. I mean, it's not the easy way.
Right.
It's just it depends on what your main objective is in life. And um, I don't like being controlled. I do not respond to bullying, and I
Right.
don't like politics at work.
Right.
So I don't have to deal. Oh, and I don't have to deal with racism at work because guess what? I'm the boss. So when I used to hire people, and I've hired people of all persuasions, never hired an Asian. I never had Asian apply, but I've had all kinds of people working for me. And guess what? When you're the boss, the buck stops with you, and I don't have to deal with racism. So
Yeah.
and if a person who's Caucasian comes to my establishment, they're either selling something or
Right,
uh
something.
or they're looking for a job. I'm still in control. So that's one thing that I it was worth it for that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's
I
been a
think
lot of hardships and
it
stuff.
is. It
It's been a
is.
roller coaster. Sometimes, I have a very, very supportive husband, and this has been something we've done together since we've been married. But I started before. I started with my first husband. So that, that was a nightmare. So, you just learn as you go. It's better to have a supportive spouse or no spouse than a non-supportive spouse if you're going to be in business. It's just almost impossible.
Yeah.
So do you have any children of your own?
I don't know. Not yet. I have quite young siblings. They're aged out of this book, but I was, in high school when they were infants, and so I remember when they were growing up.
Oh
And I
my
think in a
God.
lot of ways, I channeled them as well as myself as a little girl. Like, what in the little girl me right now? What do I need to be told? Again, I wrote this story in a season of life where I had just left some predominantly white workspaces and was feeling just undervalued by the world, just feeling, hit with the reality of what it means to be Black as a woman in America. And no matter how ready we are to contribute, sometimes the world doesn't appreciate our contribution. And,
Right.
in order to kind of work some of those feelings out of my body. That's really why I began drawing. And eventually that drawing turned into this story.
I
And
think
so,
that's valuable because what you're doing, by thinking about what you would have wanted to know when you were young, now
yes,
you're able to give those lessons to somebody else. Now, maybe you've inspired a different generation.
yes,
Maybe you've helped a new generation not hit the same stumbling blocks that you may have reached. So I think it's valuable that you do that. And I'm glad that you decided to do that before you had children.
yes,
Because I think a lot of times we don't think about these things until after we've had kids, and we're like, man, I wish I could have told my daughter or my son this or this. And you're doing this much earlier. So I think that's the value
absolutely.
in what you're doing.
Thank you. I also thought of these are adults that are mostly reading this book, so I thought of not only writing for the child that's being read to, but also the adult that's reading it. I hope it's kind of, you think of like a harmony of a song. There's the melody, which is the simple storyline that's kind of easy to follow. And I hope that children resonate with that. But then there's the harmony that's kind of the deeper storyline that will hit the adults differently. And my hope is that it will be something that will teach us all, including myself, as I reread the story, that reminds me that I deserve to have a job that doesn't define me, but that uplifts and highlights the beautiful qualities of who I am.
Amen to
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, it's challenging. It was many years ago when I worked a limited amount of time in corporate, and I just remember feeling not only undervalued or unappreciated, but nearly invisible. I mean, like
Mhm.
as a really not part of the whole. Like you're over here to the
Absolutely.
side, whereas all the action and all the decisions and all of the really what's going on is over here, and you're over here. Even though you may be a high performer, but
Right.
Mhm.
you
Oh,
still,
always. We work our tails
yeah,
right
yeah,
off.
yeah, yeah, and smarter than most of the people that you come really
And
honestly that you encounter. But it's
we
more
have
of
to
a
be.
we do, and it's more of a buddy system with them. It's like you're not part of the, they're like this, and you're like somewhere else, and
Yes.
so it was. I just, it just for me, it just reinforced my original decision that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. So it really accelerated me being one at
Yeah.
25. So and I hadn't worked for anybody since then. But
Yeah, in that season, I was having those same thoughts and coming across Black and Brown women across the Twin Cities, beginning to share a little bit about exactly what you're saying. Like,
Mhm.
I want to show up, I want to contribute, and I feel like I'm not being accepted. I feel like people that look like me are not being appreciated, not represented. And I began to share about that with Black and Brown women, along with some of the physical ramifications of that stress, right? Because it's not just a bad feeling, it actually
Mhm.
turns into physical symptoms. It can be achiness that we
Yeah.
experience, headaches,
Depression.
depression, anxiety. And I
Mhm.
would meet with these women and they would all say, oh, yeah. I mean, I experienced this too. And unfortunately, it was not only the Black women that worked in corporate, it was also folks that were caregivers at home, that were self-employed, that are working remotely. It's the reality of living in a predominantly white, not a predominantly white world, a world that's a country that's founded on white supremacy and that under prioritize folks that look like us.
Mhm.
And so instinctively, when I was in that season, I just sought after spaces where I could take my armor off and take a breath
Yes.
and check in and see, okay, where are my wounds? Like, what is going on with me for real? Let me wipe off the smile that I have to have when I'm in the office and actually see how I'm really doing and then reach for what I need. And that was really what led to me creating this space for self identified Black and Brown women where we could take a break from that outside world for a moment, check in with each other, and then consider and remember that we do deserve to feel good. We deserve to be well. We don't have to just continue to normalize the pain and stress that we so often experience.
Mhm. Yeah,
Beautiful.
I had one thing I had to tell my daughter who she went into corporate 2 years ago. Um, and I just told her, you can never be your whole self at work. You just cannot be your whole
The,
self at
the
work.
sad part is sometimes we don't feel like we can be our whole selves with anybody, even people
Right.
who look like us,
That's right. That's right.
because we're afraid of other Black and brown women looking at us and thinking of us as weak.
Yep.
So we always put on the front, and we put on the front so much that we don't even know how to be honest with ourselves,
Yep. That's
because
right.
we continue to try to tell ourselves that we don't care, or we tell ourselves that we're unbothered or what have you. And so we don't even feel safe with ourselves, and we don't feel safe with people who look like us. And I think that winds up causing hair loss, as one of our viewers mentioned.
Yeah.
It causes stress and so forth.
Yes, and
Mhm.
it's I take very seriously both the responsibility, which I hold very tight, and then the what I can't control, right? So I can't control the way that my members behave in this space, but I can set an expectation and I can lead with vulnerability in a
Yeah.
way that says, in the same way of Ardelia, like she at the end discovers that no matter what she does in her work, she'll always be Ardelia. She doesn't have to flex. She doesn't have to prove herself, she doesn't have to even get all the dollars. Like we obviously want to be sustained, we want to live flourishing lives, but that looks different for different people. And so I hold tight the responsibility, and it feels weighty, the responsibility to set a culture within our environment at Render Free that says, listen, sis, you deserve to be well when you are napping. Like, you deserve all the things you want when you are sitting still and not doing any work, and when you're working your tail off. Like, you deserve to be well and free. And also, I recognize that so much of the culture is also made up by my members and the folks who call themselves founding members of Render Free. I'm fortunate enough that after a year and some change of opening our doors, we have 50 founding members that are just creating a space that I can find healing in, truly.
Wonderful. That's
Mm.
beautiful. Unfortunately, it's come to the end of the half hour. It goes so quickly,
It
and
does.
you drop so many jewels that I hope people are able to connect with. So, can you let us know, for people who may want to connect with the
Yeah.
organization or maybe even support, how can they do that?
Absolutely. So you can find all the information about my organization at renderfree.com. We do have members not only local to the Twin Cities, but across the country that self identify as Black and Brown women. So you can find out how to get connected at renderfree.com. And then you can find out about my book and read a little bit more of the story that I wrote for little Black girls and big Black girls, right?
Yes,
The
yes.
picture box at Strive Publishing. So more information, the picture box at Strive Publishing. Thank you so much, Gwen and Aranda, for just hosting this amazing conversation and for all the work that you are doing to tell our stories. I truly appreciate it.
And thank you. I
Oh,
put
you're
both of your
welcome.
links in the chat. So hopefully we'll get some people who are going to click and try to connect with you.
Wonderful. I
Yeah,
look
and I did tell Ariel that you're the one who normally does all this checking stuff. I
You
did
did
check,
great,
but
Gwen.
that's
You did great.
not that's not my strength. So it takes two,
Yes.
two is better than one. That's biblical.
Right. Three. Great. Or not easily broken, am I right?
That's right. All right. Well, thank you so
Great
much
job.
for being a guest on Black Authors Matter TV.
Yes. Thank you. Have a great rest of your evening.
And
You
you do the
too.
same.
Bye bye.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.